Hi, my name is Kathleen Barrows, and I just finished up a spring semester 2019 internship with Joint Base Lewis McChord Fish and Wildlife Program. So this video is just serving purpose as to provide a little bit more information to you guys about the internship, as well as just talking about my experience there. So some of the projects that I had the opportunity to work on included planting plugs in savanna restoration area, working to identify invasive clover, Trifolium subterraneum, surveying for proposed timber sales and making sure that they weren't going to cut down any trees that had any bird nests in it, or just any old trees, basically. As for wildlife projects, I helped construct purple martin nest boxes. I surveyed western bluebird, wood duck, and saw-whet owl boxes. To be able to obtain credit through the University of Puget Sound for this internship opportunity, I did basically create my own program that revolved around this, the internship, and that included writing 3 research summaries. They were only like 1 to 2 pages, but I did them based off of the wildlife that I worked with. And so I did research summaries on Taylor's checker spot butterfly, saw-whet owls, and wood ducks as well. And so I'll be presenting a little bit of that information. So for wood ducks, they're really found mainly in eastern North America, as well as a small percentage can be seen from the northern 2/3 of California up into southern British Columbia. They can be found throughout the year in the U.S., though some wood ducks do migrate to Mexico for the winters and fly up as far north as Lake Winnipeg in Canada for the summers for breeding. So the male wood duck can be identified by his glossy green head, as well as having a slicked back crest on the top of his head. I'll add a picture. Their body is a combination of black, brown, and white feathers. They can also have a bright red eye that is the largest of all the ducks, and the color of their eye also matches the color of their bill. The female, on the other hand, is a little bit duller with gray and white feathers and can be singled out via having kind of a teardrop of white feathers surrounding their eye. So the wood duck prefers to live in freshwater marshes, wooded swamps, and bottomland forests. They primarily inhabit riparian areas of various sizes of streams. Our best form of habitat is when the open water alternates with around 50 to 75% of vegetation cover, where the ducks are able to hide and eat in. So as for conservation efforts, it is known that in the late 19th century there were dramatic declines in the wood duck population due to overharvesting, deforestation, and loss of wetland habitat. These birds were also very valuable for hunters, and wood ducks alone comprised about 10% of the annual duck harvest within the U.S. And attention was drawn to this problem as the birds started to decrease in numbers, and as a result, the Migratory Bird Treaty Act of 1918 was created. So the U.S. and Canada agreed to help restore the population, and that the species would be protected from legal harvest until numbers grew. So the Migratory Bird Treaty Act of 1918 states that it is illegal to take, possess, import, export, transport, sell, purchase, barter, or offer for sale, purchase, barter any migratory bird or the parts, nests, or eggs of such bird, except for under the terms of a valid federal permit. This remained law until the beginning of the 1940s, when the wood duck population staged a remarkable comeback, and the hunting ban was therefore lifted. According to the North American Breeding Bird Survey, the population increased significantly between 1966 and 2015. This is in part due to the efforts over the past couple of decades, where wood ducks are no longer listed as an endangered species. Yay! In 2014, there was an amendment added that included all species native to the U.S. or its territories, which are those that occur as a result of natural, biological, or ecological processes to be protected under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act as well. So for northern saw-whet owls, they breed in forests across southern Canada and the northern and western U.S. They winter in dense forests throughout the breeding range and across most of the U.S., excluding the southernmost edges. And they do prefer a more mature forest that has open understory that is useful for foraging, deciduous trees for nesting, and dense conifers for roosting, as well as having riverside habitat nearby. So the saw-whet owls are a small chestnut bird that have prominent white markings on the folded wings and brown and white striped chests and stomachs. Their eyes are yellow and their eyebrows connect in a Y shape over their beaks. They have no ear tufts and their throats are white, and the fledglings are solid brown above with light, fluffy feathered bellies and a well-defined white triangle on their foreheads. So as for conservation, northern saw-whet owls are fairly common and widespread, but because you don't see them a lot, they lead a very secretive lifestyle. Their population trends are fairly difficult to identify. There is an estimated breeding population of about 2 million, with about 71% spending part of the year in the U.S. and 46% in Canada, and 4% in Mexico. The southern Appalachian northern saw-whet owl is listed in the 2014 State of the Birds Watch List, which lists bird species that are at risk of becoming threatened or endangered without conservation action. North Dakota and South Dakota have listed the saw-whets as a species of concern, and a subspecies of the Queen Charlotte Island of British Columbia is threatened as well. Their breeding territory is at risk due to the pressure for logging and development, and habitat loss contribute to why the population is in decline. One way that people can help is by allowing dead trees to remain standing to provide nest cavities for these beautiful birds. So as for Taylor's checkered spot butterfly, it is a subspecies of the Aedes checker spot and is found throughout the Pacific Northwest and up into the British Columbia area as well. Its preferred habitat consists of open grassland and native grass oak woodland sites where abundant food is available for larvae and adult feeding. Some of these sites include prairies on post-glacial gravelly outwash, coastal bluffs, and balds. Balds are mountain summits or crests that are primarily covered in thick native grass vegetation or shrubs that occur in areas where heavy forest would be expected. So a while ago, the Northwest grasslands were more widespread, larger, as well as more interconnected than they are today. It is thought that if these conditions were still present, that they would have supported a greater distribution and abundance of Taylor's checkered spot butterflies. Before their drastic decline, the butterfly was documented at more than 70 sites in British Columbia, Washington State, and Oregon. Some of these sites included coastal and inland grasslands in southern Vancouver Island and surrounding islands, as well as the San Juan archipelago. Butterflies are currently locally extinct from British Columbia, and at all but 2 locations in the Willamette Valley. In 1989, fewer than 15 populations remained in the Pacific Northwest, and by October 2002, there were only 4 confirmed populations. In 2006, Washington State listed them as endangered. In Oregon, they were listed as threatened and endangered species, but they do not currently receive any protection under state statute. When listed as federally endangered in 2013, several new populations had then been identified on the North Olympic Peninsula. There are now 11 populations in Washington State, 1 in British Columbia, and 2 within the Willamette Valley. Taylor's checkered spot butterfly is a mix of black, white, and orange to about brick red checkered padding on their wings. The top side of the wings are primarily orange with bands of white, and the underlying wing is a mix of black, white, and orange. It is one of the smallest of the Aedes checkered spot butterfly with very short and stubby wings. So as for conservation, the massive decline in the Taylor's checkered spot butterfly is largely in part by the significant loss of suitable habitat due to agricultural and urban development, encroachment of trees, and spread of invasive plants which threaten native grasslands in which the species is found. It is also thought that pesticides and recreational activities may pose a direct threat to the butterflies themselves. Most of the remaining patches of population are a considerable distance from each other and very likely well beyond dispersal distance. This diminished the chance for natural recolonization, but captive breeding and reintroduction have shown to successfully create new populations for the subspecies. Joint Base Lewis McChord, in partnership with the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Oregon Zoo, Sustainability in Prisons Project, Evergreen State College, as well as Washington Corrections, has helped rebuild the butterfly population within the South Salish Sea, including sites on JBLM and the Glacial Heritage Preserve. Since 2011, SPP program participants have reared and released more than 18,000 caterpillars and adult butterflies. Throughout the program's lifespan, more than 27 incarcerated technicians have received training. 4 Evergreen grad students have coordinated the program, and 7 Washington Corrections staff have served as liaisons to the program. So just a little more information on the purple martin. So purple martins are typically seen all around the East Coast and Midwest, but they do make an appearance in the Pacific Northwest as well, mainly on the coasts. And that's more their breeding territory. For migration, they're typically seen around Mexico and Cuba. So adult male purple martins are more iridescent looking with dark blue and purple coloring and brown and black wings and tails, while females are dull and have more gray in them on their head and chest and have a more white lower belly. And this also applies to younger juvenile birds as well. So all in all, this video was just to help you guys kind of understand what it is that people do during this internship. I'm hoping that this also allows you to formulate your questions, any questions that you have for the field trip, and hopefully spark some interest in restoration work as well.